the 6th episode of the Questions That Don't Matter podcast,
where you get answers you don't need.
I'm Quinn.
And I'm Amy.
Disclaimer, we apologize in advance if you believe these questions do matter.
Our first question of the day is, could you survive being swallowed by a whale or being in the stomach of a whale? Quinn, what do you think?
So, I just don't think you could be swallowed by a whale in the first place. Like, I read the other day that the seal got in the mouth of a whale by accident, and the whale just let it go because it couldn't swallow it. So I just don't know if that's even plausible.
So it does depend on the whale and whether or not it can swallow a human. So for example, blue whales can't swallow humans, can't fit them through their esophagus. But sperm whales and killer whales have swallowed much bigger prey than humans.
Shit, like what?
Like sea creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it is possible for sperm whales and killer whales. But after, like, if you can get past the whale's teeth and you can get swallowed whole, you still have to get through its digestive system. And the enzymes will burn your skin and really painful. And if you get through that, you'll still end up in a stomach chamber where there's no air in it whatsoever, just methane gas. So no, you can't survive in the stomach of a whale. But I guess it is possible to survive being swallowed by one, but you're not going to survive for long. I was trying to, like, find stories about it, and most of them most likely didn't happen. But, like, the most believable story among, like, the ones that grew the most traction was a story that happened in 1891 when a man named James Bartley was swallowed whole by a whale and found alive in its stomach after it died.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and what James claimed to have happened was he was with a bunch of other sailors and they were deciding to hunt a whale that was nearby their ship. And then the whale took down their boats, and because of this, one sailor died and one went missing. And that sailor that went missing was James. And the crew did end up killing the whale. And when they were eating from it, they found James. And he supposedly survived 36 hours inside the whale.
What?
Which, you can't go 36 hours without air, so...
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I guess the people that, like, own the ship and are in charge of the ship were saying how this never happened. They never had James Bartley in their crew, all this stuff. But yeah.
That would be pretty funny. They're just chowing down on this whale, and James is like, help!
Yep.
Cool.
So yeah, the short answer is, no, you can't survive in the stomach of a whale because there's no air inside of it.
Cool.
There's no air inside fish.
Alright. Okay, so our next 3 questions come from the raffle that we had from the last episode. So this first question is from Mimi Fastrom, and her question was, do birds hit windshields of planes like bugs hit the windshields of cars? So what's your guess, Amy?
No. Because I think birds are more aware of their surroundings.
Oh, Amy, you naive girl.
Right.
So in my research, this is from Wikipedia, which is a valid source, I have been told.
It is.
Yeah, so, okay. Anyways, hitting birds in planes is a quite common thing. So common that it has a name, bird strike. There are other names like bird ingestion, but we're just gonna stick with bird strike today. So, it's good to note at first that about 80% of bird strikes are not reported, but in the US alone, there's over 13,000 bird strikes per year. And they can be a pretty big threat to human safety. Usually they're, like, it's not super common to be human casualties, but in non-military flying, there's about 1 incident, of human casualties in about 1 billion flying hours. So, most bird strikes cause little damage to the aircraft, but are generally fatal to birds. Most accidents happen when a bird runs into the windscreen or is sucked into the engine. The damage done in the U.S. alone is estimated to be $400 million around, just in the U.S. And then around the world, it's $1.2 billion in damage to commercial aircrafts because of bird strikes. And then birds, they don't only hit, like, planes and stuff, but, like, a lot of other man-made structures, and that's, like, a big cause for the worldwide decline of many avian species. So, yeah, that's sad. And, I think it said that Canadian geese were, like, the third most dangerous bird, to encounter planes. If that made sense.
Is that because of their size?
I guess, and just how common they are. So.
What's the first most?
It didn't say that for some reason. I don't know. It's just, the Canadian geese are dangerous, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's it.
This next question was requested by my very own sister, Kate Sermis. And the question is, what are the origins of certain idioms? And she suggested, let the cat out of the bag. And so I'm going to be explaining the origin of let the cat out of the bag, as well as it's raining cats and dogs, and break a leg.
So my guess is they're from, like, movies, like some director was just having a weird day and put that in there, and then people started quoting it. I really don't know.
Okay. Well, they've been, like, these idioms have been around since, like, the 1500s.
Then books, maybe.
Okay. Alright, so, for let the cat out of the bag, first of all, the meaning of this idiom is to disclose a secret. And they're, according to phrases.org.uk, they came up with two different origins. One is plausible, the other one is described as dubious. First one, the one described as plausible, is has to do with fraud for substituting a cat for a piglet at a market. So this is a form of trickery in order to avoid buying a pig in a poke, which is another idiom. And pig in a poke is an idiom used as early as 1530, and it is an item that is bought without being inspected beforehand. So poke meaning bag, and pig refers to the concealed item that is being sold. So like a pig in a poke, you buy an iPhone that's in a box, but it turns out the iPhone is like 2 generations below the other one and has a cracked screen. It won't turn on.
And that
So
relates
pig in a
to
poke.
cat.
It was a bit confusing. But like, letting the cat out of the bag would be like substituting a cat for the piglet at a market. So like, instead of doing an item that wasn't expected, you put in a cat. The cat just replaces the pig for some reason, but you let the cat out of the poke, out of the bag.
Okay,
Everyone knows.
interesting.
And then the second origin is has to do with something called the cat o' nine tails, which is a flog used to flog ill-disciplined sailors, and it's sometimes stored in bags.
Okay.
There you go. Very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Then for the next idiom, it's raining cats and dogs. The meaning is that it's raining very heavily. Now, one of the origins has a little bit to do with mythology, and dogs/wolves were attendants to the god Odin, who is god of the storms. And so sailors associated dogs with rain. And then cats are commonly the familiars of witches who have supposed to have ridden the wind. It's a bit of a stretch.
Okay.
And then a second origin that the writer described as nonsense was that it was based on a widely repeated tale in the 1500s about how cats and dogs would slip and fall off of roofs of houses because all the animals of the house would live on the roof of thatch houses because it was the only place to keep warm. So I guess when it was raining, if it was like a lot of rain, they'd slip off. Which makes the most sense out of the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah, nonsense. And then final idiom is break a leg. The meaning of this is it's said to actors for good luck before they go on stage. And I think my answer for this idiom will be the most satisfying out of all of them because it actually makes sense. But like the origin has to do with superstitious belief that comes with acting, where you can't say good luck to an actor because it won't cause good luck, something like that. So by wishing bad luck, wishing for someone to break a leg, the opposite will occur. And then other interpretations of this idiom was that break a leg can also mean make a strenuous effort, like put so much effort in that you break your leg. And then, or put on a good enough performance that you'll have to bow or curtsy to acknowledge the applause from the audience. So yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so our final question of today, and for a long time since Amy and I are going off to college, is why are we limited to the eye colors we have? And that question comes from Jana Parsons. So, do you want to guess that, Amy?
Like, why can't our eyes change color?
Yeah, or like, you know how cats and dogs have a bunch of different colored eyes? And we only have like blue and gray and black and, well, not really black eyes, but brown, So why don't we?
Maybe one day there was a person with like purple eyes, but then, that wasn't a recessive, or it was like, what is it, a recessive gene?
Dominant?
Well, dominant is when, like, even if the other person, like, doesn't have green eyes, let's say, then, even though I'm not sure if green eyes is a dominant gene, but, like, the purple gene was super recessive, no one else had purple eyes, but blue eyes were more common. Yeah. Well, that's my thought.
You're not really correct, but it's a good guess. So first I'm just going to go over so we understand eyes a bit. So according to VSP.com, the color of your iris is dependent on how much pigment of melanin you have. So the more pigment you have, the darker your eyes will be, and the iris, is the colored part. So most people will have brown eyes, then blue, gray, and the green is the rarest eye color, which is interesting. But, so melanin helps protect our eyes from the sun, so eyes with less pigment are more sensitive to the sun. Eyes change color for a few reasons, because people, report their eyes changing colors. With babies, it's because they don't really have much melanin in their eyes, so their true eye color will be around when they turn around 3 years old. And then disease, trauma, and aging can all be factors in our eye colors changing. But now that we understand, the eye stuff, according to Quora, the reason we don't have more eye colors like other animals is because we only have one pigment in our eyes, and that's melanin. And so with, animals and stuff, they have different types of pigment in their eyes. Occasionally we'll get small amounts of other pigments. It's just an abnormality in our eyes, which allows for some variations, such as honey or hazelish eyes. So yeah, basically we just don't have more eye colors because we don't have more pigments. So there you go.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
When you were talking about like how babies are born with like different colored eyes than the eyes they end up with, that reminded me how all kittens are born with like baby blue colored eyes, and then that changes over time.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah, but it would be so cool if we had like cat eyes. Like they're so pretty.
Yeah.
Maybe with like designer babies, you could get like more pigment into their eyes, and like or different types of pigment, and have different colored eyes for your kids.
Yeah.
Like the purple eyes you're talking about.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
It's the moment we've all been waiting for, the raffle. Now, 4 people have been entered into the raffle. Mimi Fonstrom, who requested the question about birds. Kate Sermis, who requested the question about idioms. Jana Parsons, who requested the question about eyes. Anyway. And Hallie Parsons, who was the first person to ever give us a question. And we really appreciated it, so that's why she's being entered into this. So yeah, we've got 4 names in a hat. Shaking up the hat.
This is a big moment. Here, I'll do a drum roll. Come on, Amy. Can't drum roll forever.
Hallie!
Woo!
Woo! Hallie wins
$3 in quarters. Congrats, Hallie.
Congratulations, Hallie. Thank you for listening to our podcast, Questions That Don't Matter.
They say you learn a new thing every day. Well, with this podcast, you learn 4 new useless things every 4 months or so.
Also, follow us on Instagram, Soundcloud, and YouTube.
This has been Quinn
and Amy
on Questions That Don't Matter.